Welcome back to another episode of the Career Dive Podcast. Today's episode is special because what I'm going to talk about today is going to be quite literally life-changing because it very much was life-changing for me. Over the last couple of months, I have been reflecting a lot on my own journey and what really has helped me in my career the most. And you guys know I talk about it often on this podcast, and that is, things like learning networking skills and communication skills, interview skills, all of that is very important. But the biggest shift that really has helped me break into my first six-figure role, then break into a high-paying, high six-figure role, and then over the last few years to move into multiple six figures in my compensation, in my income, has been this specific shift that we'll be diving into today. And it also is something that has been coming up a lot in coaching inside my job search coaching program, the Star Candidate, over the last few months. So I knew we had to make an episode on this. So if there is just one episode that you listen of the Career Dive podcast, let it be this episode. And the specific shift that has helped me and the shift that I keep talking about with my clients every single week is thinking about your career and your life as a CEO rather than an employee. What do I mean by that? Realistically, most people approach their careers with an employee mindset. So you're kind of waiting for the role to be posted. You're hoping that after you submit your application, you'll get picked for that first interview. And you're reacting. Again, you're waiting for that to be posted, and then you're reacting with the next steps. But what has made the biggest difference for me and what I keep seeing with the most successful professionals is thinking like a CEO. So what's the difference here? So an employee, again, is someone who is waiting for an opportunity to come up, whilst the CEO is someone who creates their own opportunities. An employee looks at their job search day by day. I know it's you. I know you're doing it. You're looking at your job search day by day. And then when there is no immediate progress today or this week, you start panicking. I see you, my friend. While a CEO thinks in quarters and in years. And the CEO knows that today's work and today's strategy is what's setting you up for success long term. An employee is someone who is just thinking of, okay, well, what's my next job? What's my next opportunity? Versus a CEO is someone who is building a long-term career strategy that aligns with your life, vision, and goals. So again, we'll be diving into this today, but what I want for you to start thinking about is when you're operating as a CEO of your career and life, everything changes. I can guarantee that to you immediately today. Everything is going to change because you will stop wasting time on things that don't move the needle. Because as a CEO, you have no time to waste on things that are just spinning the wheel for you. You stop waiting for permission. You stop settling for less than what you deserve. And most importantly, you start making strategic moves that lead to high-paying, high-impact roles. So, my friend, today in this episode, we are going to break down 7 ways to start thinking like the CEO of your career and exactly how to apply this CEO mindset to your job search right now. So let's dive into it. All right. First, let's talk about having a big picture vision. So a CEO is not someone who is getting distracted by random opportunities, and it is instead someone who thinks strategically, who is thinking of their path in the strategic roadmap. So what does that mean? Well, a CEO never looks at progress by a single day or even week or potentially even a month. Instead, a CEO is looking at quarters and years because a CEO knows that big moves and big changes don't happen in a day or in a week, and it takes time to see that big change. So here, what I see often is a lot of job seekers start spiraling when they don't immediately see results. So they apply for a few jobs in a couple of weeks, and then they start spiraling. Okay, well, this is not working. Or they start networking, they start working with me, they start getting proactive. They reach out to 5 people and then come back to me 2 days later saying, well, I still don't have any meetings and any referrals. Well, that's just not enough time. A lot of job seekers are looking at their week and thinking, well, today, nothing happened. This week, I didn't get an interview. This month, I didn't get an offer. So I am failing. This is not working. But once again, as a CEO, you need to start looking at trends and meaningful progress and knowing that this meaningful progress does take time. A CEO also understands that setbacks today, so you not getting an offer, does not define your future success. Your setback is simply a data point. So a CEO takes that data point and keeps moving forward towards that bigger vision. And a CEO knows that that bigger vision not only takes time, but it also comes with adversity and it comes with quote unquote failure. So if you are starting to spiral every time something doesn't work out, every time maybe you get a rejection, you're not thinking like a CEO. So you need to shift from this employee thinking, well, I didn't get an interview this week, so my job search isn't working, to the CEO mindset, the CEO thinking. And that is career growth happens over quarters and years. I am building relationships, I'm building my brand today, and that is what is going to create opportunities for me down the line. So what does that mean for you in your job search specifically? Well, stop focusing on today's results in terms of referrals, interviews, and offers. Instead, look at today and the week and even the month and think about it this way. Is what I'm doing today, this week, this month, taking me to my bigger goal? So this is a conversation that we often have inside the Start Canada program, where you guys start your proactive outreach, you start building relationships, and oftentimes those target companies that you have on your list are newer companies for you. Oftentimes you don't know anyone there. So it will oftentimes take time for people to see you, to respond to you, for you to book meetings, for you to turn those meetings into referrals. Can it happen in a couple of days? Yes. And we have seen that happen in the program time and time again. But realistically, the chances of that happening in a day or 2 or a week are pretty small. It's kind of like going viral on the internet. Is there a chance every time you post something online that it will go viral? Yes. But it kind of part of it is strategy, but part of it, a big part of it is luck. And same with someone that you've just reached out and sent a cold message to, that they will respond immediately, they will be a great connection, they will meet with you this week, and they will refer you. Part of it is luck. As much as you guys know, I'm big on very specific messaging. I'm big on being strategic with how you reach out, how you follow up, how you overcome objections. There's a lot of strategy and nuance to it. But how fast people will respond, how fast they will book a meeting with you, that partially is luck. So for most people, it does take a few weeks of targeted, strategic, volume reach outs, especially when they're cold reach outs, to start booking meetings. So oftentimes in the program, what I see is you do it for a couple of weeks and you come back and say, well, nothing has happened. Oh my gosh, this is not working. And again, when that is happening, you're not thinking like a CEO, because 2 weeks and 10 reach outs is not enough for you to drive conclusions that this is not working. And it's not even enough time for those people to actually get back to you. So this is a conversation that we often have. And every single time, those same people come back into coaching another 2 weeks later and say, I don't know what's happening, but all of a sudden I have 5 meetings this week. And I say, well, I know exactly what's happening, because it takes time for that to accumulate, for your efforts to accumulate, and for you to start seeing the results. And another piece to think about here is a lot of job seekers have these timelines that oftentimes are not realistic. So let's say, hey, I want to increase my salary by 50K. I want to move to a new industry. Oh, and by the way, I just moved to the city 2 months ago. So there's so many big changes in your life. You have big goals, and then you set a target for yourself. Hey, I want this next opportunity within 6 weeks. Well, is this big goal really realistic within that very short time frame? And then what happens here is a month goes by, 2 months go by, and then you start panicking. Well, again, this is not working. I'm not moving fast enough. But if you're thinking as a CEO and you're thinking in terms of quarters and years, what is 2 months or even 3 months, even 6 months when working towards a big goal? What is 2 months or 6 months as it relates to your entire time in the workforce? So as a CEO of your career, you need to learn how to zoom out from today and this week and this month and look at a bigger picture. Next, again, we're still in this first bucket of strategic big picture thinking. And if an interview doesn't lead to an offer for you, I don't ever want for you to think of it as wasted time, but rather I want for you to see it as practice. I want for you to see it as a stepping stone to your next opportunity. In fact, here's something that we have been talking about in coaching. Oftentimes, so you're interviewing, maybe you didn't get to the last round, you didn't get to talk to someone very, very senior, and you got rejected. What do most people do? They kind of stop there and they move on to something else. But as a CEO, you need to think long term. You need to think, what can this look like long term? So what I always tell my clients is, listen, let's still reach out to that final executive that you were supposed to meet with. And let's still ask for 10, 15 minutes of their time. And let's frame it as, listen, this specific opportunity was not the right fit for us. However, I loved what I heard from this person and this person about the team, the projects, the company. So getting very specific, what is it that stood out to you? And then asking for their time from the perspective of, hey, I'd love to understand what your priorities are for the next 6 months to 12 months to see how I can help and whether there is an opportunity for us to work together in the future. So see the difference. You're thinking future. I'm already 1 foot into this company, even though I didn't get an offer, but can I meet the right people and set up those relationships so that the person that they decided to go with for this specific opportunity, if that doesn't work out, they come back to me. Oh, if they open another role 2 months from now, 6 months from now, they come back to me because I have established those connections. Same, we actually just talked about it this week with Carmen. She says, hey, I saw this role posted. I was excited about it, but for whatever reason, she didn't really take any steps towards it. She didn't reach out to people on the team. She didn't apply. So now she's asking, well, I guess, that's done with. So I'm moving on. And I actually had to pause here with her and say, Carmen, it's not over until it's over. And even if the role is closed, even if they're already interviewing, even if they already extended an offer, it's not over because people reject offers all the time. People sign offers and then don't show up for the first day. People don't work out a week in, 2 months in. People don't work out. So you always want to try to get in regardless. But B, even if that person does work out that they decided to hire, and even if they are already too far in the process, it is still an opportunity for you to connect with people because now you know, hey, this company and this team hires for something that I'm interested in. So who do I need to know here? Again, you're thinking big picture and long term. So you're thinking like a CEO, not like an employee. And final piece here that I want to talk about, and that is thinking of your next role as a strategic move forward rather than, oh, it's a short-term solution. I just need my next role and I just need to see a paycheck, and it doesn't really matter. Because that's what happens when you are just going on LinkedIn, scrolling through what's posted and seeing, yeah, that's fine. I guess that's something I can do. The company sounds pretty cool. Okay, I'll apply. Is that strategic, or is that you just solving this problem today? Because if you are just solving the problem today, again, you're not a CEO, you're an employee, and you're kind of drifting rather than creating your own future. Which leads me to part 2, and that is proactive decision making. Because CEOs don't wait for opportunities to appear. They create opportunities. Because imagine a CEO that's just sitting there and waiting for investors or waiting for customers to knock on their door. No, they go out and meet them, create them. Of course, they have teams supporting them. That's not the point here. But as CEO, the way they build the company, the way they drive the company, the way they drive solutions, they're not sitting and waiting. And speaking of proactive decision making, CEOs don't make rush decisions out of desperation, but rather, again, they're thinking long term. Okay, well, maybe this month or this quarter was down in sales, but what does that mean for us long term? Okay, maybe this quarter was slowed down to focus on A, B, and C instead, so that we can position ourselves for long-term success. And CEOs also build relationships before they need them. So employee thinking here with this proactive decision-making piece is I'll wait for the right job to be posted and then I'll apply. When you're thinking as the CEO of your career, you're thinking, I will build relationships with the decision makers so that they think of me before they even post a job. So in your job search, what does this look like? Well, you probably already know my answer here, but you stop waiting for random jobs to be posted. So you're not chasing, but rather you make the decision, hey, these are the companies that I want to join or specific teams. And then you reach out to key decision makers, key people before those roles even exist. You build relationships in your industry before you need a job, so that instead of sending applications that go to the machine, you put yourself in conversations where those hiring decisions are made. Next time you're scrolling on LinkedIn and you're tempted to just click on easy apply for job that is kind of okay, pause there and ask yourself, am I acting as the CEO of my career? Am I drifting? Am I being reactive? Or am I being proactive? All right, let's move on to number 3, and that is brand and reputation management. CEOs very, very much control the narrative, and you should too. So a CEO doesn't really let their brand develop on its own, because there will be conversations about it online with their customers. But the right CEO, and again, I know that they have teams for that, but the right CEO look at it as we need to shape the conversation. We need to refine the conversation. And we need to make sure that the conversation that is happening about our product, about our company, reflects what we want it to be. It reflects our value. And they don't let customers or social media dictate their brand story. Instead, they invest heavily and they hire teams to ensure that their message that they want to convey is very clear. So here, your kind of employee thinking looks like, well, when I need a new job is when I will update my resume, right? I see you. And then the CEO is thinking, well, I'm always building my personal brand. And when someone finds me on LinkedIn, when someone lands on my profile on LinkedIn, it is crystal clear to them within 5 seconds that I'm a superstar at what I do and what I want to do next. And because you have such a strong brand, and oftentimes as a CEO to control that narrative is also where you create content on LinkedIn. And this way, the right opportunities come to you. So in your job search, what does this mean? Well, you are your own marketing team. Let me say that again. You are your own marketing team. And your brand, your personal brand, is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Because I can guarantee right now that wherever you work, people talk about you. The executive team talks about you when you're not in the room. So what are they talking about? When a recruiter finds you on LinkedIn, are they sold? Do they want to reach out to you for the type of role that you're targeting next? If they're reaching out to you for the type of role that you have right now, then your marketing needs an upgrade. In your job search, it also means that you need to show up with authority. So that looks like sharing your insights, engaging in discussions, and making sure that people see you as a leader, specifically online on LinkedIn. So yes, it does mean that you are following some of the big voices in your industry and that you are spending time. And I can't stress this enough because this is just the beginning in 2025. Moving forward, this is going to be even more important where you, again, have that active presence online as an authority in your industry. So you're spending time, you're following people in your industry, you're spending time every single week on leaving meaningful comments and insights on the content that they create. Because every time you do that, every time you're active, that will start popping up on the feeds of, let's say, hiring managers that you have connected with. It will start popping up on the feeds of your first degree connections. So that is, let's say, people that you work with already and the executives that you work with already. So you will proactively start building that reputation of someone who is knowledgeable. And it will also look like creating, again, your own content and sharing your opinions, your wins, your projects, your setbacks, what you've learned from those setbacks. Because that increases and boosts your visibility online on LinkedIn immediately. But at the same time, it also solidifies you as that authority, because when someone new now lands on your LinkedIn profile, let's say through you networking, and now they see that, not only you have the strong profile, but you also talk about this, you immediately rank so much higher than anyone else in your industry who is not doing that. And by the way, one more time, I know I've talked about this quite a bit, but it doesn't mean that you have to become an influencer. It doesn't mean that you have to spend hours on social media and creating content every single week. It means a couple of hours a month, probably, but it is inevitable in 2025 and especially moving forward. All right, let's move on to number 4, and that is investing in your growth. Because CEO is someone who invests in what moves the needle. Because think about it this way, no company scales without investing. And CEOs don't look at hiring experts, senior executives, at training their employees, at improving their operations as an expense. They look at it as an investment that is necessary for their future success and growth. They also know that, as we grow and as we want to move to that next level, my investment levels will also increase, because now I need to bring in better people. I need to bring in top advisors. I need more resources to accelerate my progress. This is where an employee is thinking, for me to go to that next level, to learn those skills, to get help, it's too expensive. I'm going to try to figure this out on my own. CEO here is thinking, the right investments accelerate my journey, my success, my progress. I'm not going to waste time struggling alone. And by the way, I truly wholeheartedly believe that this is the number one shift that has made the biggest difference for me in the last 5 years and has greatly accelerated my income and my career. And that is thinking, okay, well, if I don't know how to do this, who can help me? Who can help me? Where can I learn this skill? Or can I outsource this skill? So I always think, who can help me get there faster? Which is why over the last 5 years, I've invested more in myself and different types of programs and coaches than the cost of my master's degree in business. Because I know, can I learn this on my own? Yes. Do I want to spend the next 5 years trying to figure this out on my own? Or do I want to find someone who can teach me how to do this in the next 2 months? Yes, I'd rather invest in learning from someone who knows how to do it so that I move a lot faster. So, what does that mean for your job search? Well, I have seen this quite often with some job seekers, and they think of this next chapter as an expense. So let's say they're considering, hey, I do know that I need help. I do know that I need a career coach. I need a communication coach. I need to learn how to network. But they keep thinking it's an expense. They keep thinking it's expensive. So when you're thinking about it that way, so again, you're just thinking of solving something for today, what we talked about earlier. You're not thinking big picture. I'm just going to learn these skills and this is not a problem ever again. You're not thinking, okay, well, if I'm investing in my growth today, what's the return? It's this next big role that is also paying me this much more, the role that I actually enjoy, that sets me up for success long term. Oh, also, again, this is never a problem again because I know how to job search now. So they're not thinking about it that way. So not thinking like a CEO, they're thinking as an employee. They're thinking, well, this is very expensive today. I see it again as an expense. I'm not going to do it. They're not thinking of investing in themselves. So here's the thought for you. You wouldn't expect a company to scale without investing. So why would your career be different? How would you go to the next level without learning how to go to that next level, without investing into the resources and tools and experts to go to that next level? All right, number 5, knowing your value and negotiating for it. And here, I want for you to think of Shark Tank. You know how the founders come in and they talk about, their product or their service. And oftentimes, if not every single time, challenges come up. So they go into Shark Tank for a reason, because they have some challenges. They need support and they see the potential, but they're not there yet. But I'm sure you have seen how when they value their company, when they put a number on that company, it's not just based on, hey, this is how much we've done in sales today. It's them looking at, here's what this is going to be a year from now, 2 years from now. So that's how a CEO thinks. CEO thinks of future potential and not just current revenue. So an employee thinking here is, okay, well, let's see what offer I'll get. I kind of have my target, but we'll see what I'll get. And then I'll, try to negotiate it a little bit. Versus a CEO is thinking like they're on Shark Tank. Okay, I am going to set my value, not just based on what I'm making now, but based on what I'm doing for this company, what value I'm creating for this company, what type of problems I'm solving, or what type of revenue I'm bringing for them. So again, you're kind of thinking a little bit bigger than just you and just your next offer. So what does that mean for your job search? Well, you need to stop basing your salary on what you have made before, or even what the market says. Because instead, I want for you to ask yourself, what is the real impact of my work? What is that real impact on that company's bottom line? You're positioning yourself as a solution to employers' problems, and you're positioning yourself based on what you're creating for the employer and the results that you're bringing. So you're negotiating from a place of value, not just a place of your past experience. All right, number 6 is focusing on high impact tasks. So a CEO is someone who is focusing on what is actually driving this business forward. So employee thinking here is, well, I'm going to be tweaking my resume and applying online because, again, that is busy work that keeps you busy, but is it a high impact task? While the CEO is thinking, I'm prioritizing high value, high impact activities like networking, like branding, like direct outreach, like elevating the skills that I need for this offer to solidify, for example, interview skills. So what does that mean for your job search? Well, you need to stop treating the easy apply job submissions like progress because that's busy work. That's not a high value task. Once again, it means that you need to be getting instead in front of the decision makers, not recruiters, not people who do what you want to do, which, by the way, is very, very valuable for you to validate that, yes, it is what I want to do. But they're not the people who have the power to hire you. It means that you're building your personal brand, which is what we already talked about. So overall, you are prioritizing tasks that increase your visibility, that open doors, and put you in front of the right people who have that decision-making power. And finally, number 7, and that is resilience and adaptability. As a CEO, you can't afford to panic. You can't afford to spiral. Instead, you pivot. So every single CEO, every single company faces setbacks. So that's, deals that don't go through, that's, competitors entering the market, industries are shifting, the market is shifting. But you're not just shutting down your business when things don't go as planned, but instead you're now making decisions based on this new reality. So you now look at data, you analyze, you adjust, and you move forward with a better strategy. So an employee here is thinking, well, I didn't get an offer. I failed. It's a failure. And the CEO thinking here is, well, this is feedback. I need to refine my strategy, my positioning. I need more advocates. That's how I'm going to get the next opportunity. So we actually have talked about it in the previous episode about rejection, but here for your job search, it once again means that your rejection at any point of your job search is not a failure. It's just a data point. It's feedback that doesn't even always mean that it is something that you need to change, but sometimes it does mean that you need to refine, again, your strategy, your positioning, your approach. It also means that as the industry shifts, and in general, the job market has shifted over the last 5 years, and the same strategies that worked in 2019, where you probably could have gotten a great job by applying online, but now, again, with AI, with what employers are looking for and what employers value, and now how many AI-generated applications are there, the market has shifted. So your strategy needs to shift as well. And finally, this resilience also means that you are still staying focused on your long-term goal. You're not spiraling every time there's a short-term, quote-unquote, setback. So here you have it. We've talked about those 7 mindset shifts that you need to start thinking as the CEO of your career. And every time, my friend, you maybe are planning for job search or you're going through job search, every time you are asking yourself, oh, what should I do here? What should be my next step? Should I follow up? Should I try to connect with this person? When you're asking yourself those questions, when you face a setback, every single time, I want for you to ask yourself, am I acting as the CEO or am I acting as an employee? If I were the CEO, what would I do right now? How would I think through this? Because when you start thinking like the CEO of your career, everything changes. You stop feeling like you are at the mercy of employers and job postings. You stop undervaluing yourself as you're job searching and as you're negotiating your compensation. And you stop wasting time on things that are not moving you forward. Instead, you start thinking long term. So you follow up with that executive that you didn't get to talk to during your interview process. You follow up with companies that maybe closed the roles that you were eyeing and you didn't get to apply. You are building relationships, you're owning your brand, you're making strategic moves that lead to those high paying, high impact roles. So, are you just applying for your next job? Or are you building your career like a CEO? All right, my friend, that is it for today's episode. I am so curious how this resonated with you. As always, shoot me a note on Instagram at The Career Diet or on LinkedIn at Anna Bleva. We'll link both in the show notes. Shoot me a note and let me know how this episode resonated with you. And if you have been enjoying the podcast, I would really, really appreciate it if you could take just a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or submit a rating for Spotify, depending on where you're listening to this episode. It really means a lot and it really helps the podcast. I would really, really appreciate it. All right, that is it. I will see you next week.